Anushirvan the just, our noble, the name and our dispenser of justice was also his name.
Adel, a dispenser of justice true, Noshirvan-e-Adel forever shines through. His heart afire with fairness and right, equal laws for poor and royal insight.
There were many great and glorious kings of ancient Zoroastrian Iran, and among those who ruled during the Sasanian dynasty from 531 AD to 579 AD was the benevolent and just Shah Khosrow I, also known as Anushirvan-e-Adel or Naushirvan-e-Adel, the Just. His title, Anushirvan, means immortal soul, and his other title was Dadgar, which means dispenser of justice. Thus, in history books, he is better known as Noshirvan-e-Adel, Noshirvan the fair, righteous and just. His sense of fairness and justice endeared him to his subjects, and even today people remember him as a leader who was a visionary, innovative, benevolent and just, living by one's own established rules which altereth not, and these laws applied equally to the poor as well as the royals. Leading with benevolence, Noshirvan reformed the tax on farmers. He introduced a nominal land tax based on cultivated area. Payments could be made in 3 installments across the year. In times of crop failure due to natural calamities, taxes were waived. He created a separate taxation ministry and ensured that landowning farmers lacking funds received loans from the agriculture ministry for seeds, equipment and cattle. His reign was one of the best in Sasanian Iranian history. Bastan-Nameh and Khuda-Nameh were written in his reign, books of ancient history on which the Shah-Nameh was based. Khosrow I, the Naushirvan, is hailed by historians as a transformative ruler of the Sasanian Empire. During the mid-6th century, noted for his sweeping reforms across economic, social, military and legal dimensions. His reforms included the establishment of a precise tax system that strengthened the empire's treasury, empowering a new military class known as the Dikan. The Persian Academy of Gonde-Shapur was formed with scholars, doctors and philosophers from around the globe invited there by Shah Noshirvan. It was a university hospital complex combining medical school, library, observatory and translation center. A true proto-university centuries before the rise of other European universities. Gonde-Shapur represented the Iranian ideal of universal knowledge known as Huda-Nagi, an integration of wisdom from multiple civilizations in service of both the state and the soul. Anushirvan Khosrow's effort in codifying laws and promoting scholarly translations enriched the cultural landscape of the Sasanian polity, making him a pivotal figure in shaping the upward trajectory of the Sasanian Iranian Empire. The epic of Nowshirvan-e-Adel and the old lady's hut. Noshirvan made his grand royal palace at Ctesiphon with the largest unsupported dome in the world even today. Everyone praised the grand building built by the genius of Iran's architects when someone found a blackened wall at the rear of the palace. On inquiry, it was found that an old lady living in a hut adjoining the wall was using firewood for cooking, which blackened the wall of the palace nearby. Shah Noshirvan called the old lady to court and requested her to shift from that hut, and he would give a much better home for her and gold dinars too. The old lady replied, "O just and great Shahanshah, you are the king of a large empire, but you would not let a 70-year-old woman like me, who was born in this hut and would like to die in that same hut, live at her legally owned place of stay?" King Noshirvan felt empathy for the old woman and ordered not to demolish the hut. On courtiers saying about the blackening smoke from her cooking, Noshirvan again conveyed to the old lady that he will send her food prepared in the palace every day to her hut, and requested her not to cook in her hut, for the smoke will spoil the walls of the palace. Immediately the old lady replied, "Shah and Shah, I thank you for your generosity, but for the last 70 years I have been eating food prepared by me, and the royal food over which I do not have any right will not suit my body, and it's not acceptable to me, please." This just Shah was pleased with the self-respecting honest lady and ordered that she be left alone and stay at her hut and cook at her place without any hindrance, and gave her a prize for her honesty and dignity. Noshirvan and the old walnut grower. Once Noshirvan was moving around his capital when in a farm, he noticed an old man sowing saplings of walnut plants. He was surprised and said, "Dear old farmer, by the time these saplings grow walnuts, you may not even be there. You are all alone without any offspring. Then why are you sowing these saplings?" The old farmer replied, "O just Shah, we are eating the fruits of the trees sown by our ancestors. Then is it not our duty to plant such fruit-bearing trees so that our coming generations eat their fruit?" Noshirvan said, "Bravo, well done, old man. Your selfless intention is really heartwarming, and I am proud that selfless people like you inhabit my kingdom." And he gave a handsome prize to the old man as a token for his appreciation. Naushirvan was thus not only just, but appreciative of the poorest of the poor in his kingdom, and gave relief to them whenever they required help. And he told his courtiers, "Look, when an industrious man does selfless work for the good of others, then his work shines out with love and compassion for fellow man." The epic story of divine justice. Shah Khosrow I had started a tradition of carrying out 5 days of Ghambar for his people of his entire kingdom, be he Zartushti or otherwise. All were invited for the Ghambar feast for 5 days during the month of Dai. For this he had arranged transport at the cost of the treasury from the farthest parts of his kingdom for carrying all the people to his capital Ctesiphon, arranging for food and stay en route for people coming from afar too. The last 5th Ghambar would be on Behram Roj. Now there lived a very poor man in his kingdom named Marazban, who lived with his wife and 2 children in a hut at the banks of the river Sirvan near Ctesiphon. He could not go to attend the king's Ghambar, for he earned daily to feed his family, and if he would go even for a day, his family would be left hungry. Now the day of Behram Roj came about, and the old man thought that he will not gain any holy blessings for his afterlife if he does not carry out even 1 Ghambar in his life, and he felt very sad at his predicament. However, he decided and took out his front door and carried it on his back to sell it in the market to get some money for carrying out a modest Ghambar. He sold his door for 1 dinar and was looking out for a mobed to carry out a fringan for his Ghambar. But all the priests had gone to the king's Ghambar. However, he found out that there was a handicapped priest who could not go to the king's palace. So he went and pleaded with this priest for carrying out a fringan and Ghambar at his modest hut. Finally convinced, Marazban carried the priest on his shoulders and took him to his hut and carried out the fringan and modest Ghambar, calling a few people who had not gone to the king's Ghambar. Fully contented by his noble ceremony, he carried out the priest back to his house on his shoulders and came back and slept a sound sleep that day. It so happened that same night, Shah Noshirvan saw in his dream that a huge fleet of ships came along the Sirvan river with all sorts of treasure on board. The ships landed and emptied their valuable cargo of gold and jewelry fit for a king, and made heaps of this gold and jewelry in a garden and a courtyard of majestic palace on the banks of the river. Even Noshirvan, having so much of riches in his treasury, had not seen so much of beautiful jewelry and precious items of gold and jewels in heaps. A divine being was passing by in his dream, and Noshirvan asked the being, "Whose treasure is these?" The being answered that this grand palace, the garden and the large courtyard, together with all the treasure emptied by these fleet of ships, belongs to a poor man living near the Sirvan river named Marazban, who had carried out a Jashan and Ghambar on Behram Roj with full devotion and faith in spite of his poor condition. Then Noshirvan asked the divine being in his dream, "And what blessings will Shah Noshirvan get, who has carried out Jashans and Ghambars for 5 days for his entire population for years together now?" The being replied, "Both Noshirvan and Marazban will get equal blessings, as both carried out Jashan and Ghambar based on their own potential and standing with equal fervor. In the eyes of divine justice, the unaccountable treasure of Noshirvan and 1 dinar of Marzban spent on Jashan and Gambar is equal, said the divine being. The king got surprised from his dream and got up and wondered at the strange dream he had seen. He called his magi's and priests and told them the dream and told them to interpret the dream. The magi's told him that he had seen the old man named Marazban living on the river banks, and this is whom he saw in his dream. The Shah ordered his courtiers and go find out about this poor man named Marazban and bring him to court. His courtiers found Marazban and brought him to the king's court. The frightened Marazban was asked how he has carried out his Gambar on Behram Roj. Upon telling the truth, Shah Noshirvan asked him, "If you give me the reward and blessings of your Gambar, I will give you so much wealth you will not require to work again." Marazban, though scared, replied boldly, "O Shah, I'm sorry, but I cannot give the blessings of my Gambar, no matter how much wealth you give me." The Shah again tried to coerce and request Marazban to do his bidding. To buy time, Marazban said, "I have carried out the Gambar together with my wife, so I will have to consult and ask her too." So he was sent back to his hut with his courtiers, who waited outside to receive the final answer from Marazban. Marazban asked his wife, "I have bought time with an excuse to ask you about giving the divine blessings of our Gambar to the king in exchange for innumerable wealth. What is your view?" After consulting his wife, who had also agreed that he may refuse what the king is asking for, Marazban returned to convey his final answer to the courtiers waiting outside, and he said, "Tell the Shah that we are unable to grant what the king is asking for. Tell the king that he has carried out countless Gambars, and he will get his blessings from them, and therefore please let a poor man like me also get my blessings from one small Gambar that I carried out through my meager earnings." Shah Noshirvan calmly heard the reply of Marazban from his courtiers and wondered at the dignity and honesty of this poor man, and ordered Marazban to be one of his advisers at court. In the eyes of divine providence, both poor and wealthy are the same, and the Almighty does not ask for any sacrifice or gift from his creations. All he wants is devotion and love, given from the heart with full faith and fervor from his creations. Zanzir-e-Adel, or ropes of justice of Noshirvan. Nowshirvan-e-Adel installed ropes at various places in his kingdom which were attached to bells for those who wanted justice for themselves or others. All they had to do was pull the rope and ring the bell. An attendant was always available at these places and would note down the complaint of one seeking justice and carry it to the court of the king, Noshirvan. Noshirvan's justice was Atal. That is why he was known throughout the lands as Nowshirvan-e-Adel or Noshirvan the Just. Once a goat came and pulled the ropes of justice, and the attendant was surprised. But as per his duty, he carried the complaint of the goat to the king Noshirvan. Surprised but resolute, Noshirvan ordered his guards to go to the place where the goat is living, and they found a wild dragon there killing animals that came his way. The guards killed the dragon, and thus Noshirvan gave justice even to a goat. Similarly, once a skinny horse did the same thing by pulling the rope of justice with his mouth. The king ordered the owner of the house to attend the court and ordered him to feed the horse well or face the pain of imprisonment if the horse was found underfed again. Declaring himself always accessible, Noshirvan warned officials against harassing citizens. Under his just and compassionate rule, people felt safe and the nation thrived. Noshirvan's visionary benevolent leadership brought lasting reforms that truly benefited the state and its people, and Noshirvan always visited undercover throughout his kingdom to find out if there are any problems faced by his people and solve it within no time.
ancient Iran's golden light, a king stood tall, a just delight. Shah Khosrow I, with soul immortal, Anushirvan the just forever whole. In ancient Iran's land so bright, Shah Khosrow I shone with justice light. Anushirvan the just, a noble name. Dadgar, dispenser of justice, was also his name. Adel, a dispenser of justice true. Noshirvan-e-Adel forever shines through. His heart of fire, with fairness and right, equal laws for poor and royal in sight. With benevolence he led the land, reformed taxes with a gentle hand. Farmers' burdens he sought to ease, nominal land tax with payments to please. In times of woe, taxes were waved away, a separate ministry to ensure fair play. Loans for seeds, equipment, and cattle too, for farmers lacking funds, a helping hand anew. His reign a golden age so bright, chess and backgammon, games of delight. Bastinade and could a name of books of old, Shah's roots in stories yet untold. A transformative ruler, historians say, reform sweeping in every way. Taxes precise, a treasury strong, a new military class that it can all day long. Laws codified, translations are bound, cultural landscape forever renowned. Khosrow I, Anushirvan, a name so grand, a pivotal figure in Iran's golden stand. Khosrow I, Anushirvan, a name so grand, a legacy that will forever stand.